Hi everyone, it's Sarah. Welcome to my crochet channel. This is our last crochet video tutorial for 2019, and I'm going to show you how to crochet these peppermint scrubbies. They're a lot easier than they look. It's basically 3 rows and then our hanger. This one is made out of scrubby yarn, and this one is made out of 2 strands of red and white cotton. So you can do them either way. You can make it as a scrubby or just a washcloth. They measure about 5.5 inches across, and please don't worry that it's complicated. It's really quite simple, and I'm going to walk you through every step. Now this is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and as always you can find that link down in the notes underneath this video. To make the peppermint scrubby, you're going to need some Yarn Bee Scrubology Scrub It in fire red and in white, and this makes really nice scrubbies. If you want to just make a washcloth that you can scrub with, you're going to need any kind of cotton that you have on hand, and you'll be holding 2 strands of white or 2 strands of red together in order to make it the chunky scrubby that we have. All right, I'll be using these today. Like I said, the Scrubology. You can find these at Hobby Lobby, and I believe some other companies have come out with a similar type yarn. If you want to use an acrylic yarn, you can. You just won't have the scrubby effect, and it won't be made out of cotton, of course. But make sure that you use a chunky or bulky number 5 yarn in red and white, or whatever colors that you want. You don't have to make it in these colors, of course. We're going to be stitching today with an N hook, and the N that I'm using is a 9.0 millimeter crochet hook. And I know there's some differences in ends. Some of them are a 10 millimeter. I am using the 9 millimeter crochet hook today. You're going to need a needle with a nice big eye, and then of course you'll need your scissors. We're going to begin in the center, and we'll be stitching 2 white, 2 red, 2 white, 2 red, 2 white, 2 red, and so we'll be changing colors often, so I've got both my colors ready to go. We're going to begin with the white. We're going to make that slip knot, and then we're going to chain 6. We're going to join this chain 6 into a circle. So we'll take that tail of yarn, put it over our hook, and pull it through that loop, and then we'll just snug that down and make that stay knot that will keep our circle or our loop closed. Alrighty. We're going to turn it over, and we're going to stitch over that tail as we work. Now, when you're changing colors, in order to get a nice crisp look, we want to make sure we do that at the end of the double crochet. And let me show you what I mean by that. We're going to put our hook in, pull up a loop, and we're going to chain 3. This chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. Whoops, lost my red yarn. Alright, now I'm going to begin stitching my second double crochet in that chain 6. So I'll pull up a loop, I'll yarn over, and I'll only go through the first 2 loops. Alright, so now I'm going to bring in my red color and finish off that double crochet. And if I were to finish the white, let me go ahead and do the next 2 stitches, and then I'll explain that. what we're going to be doing is stitching over the working yarn. So I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, there we go, and do my double crochet. And you'll notice that loop's a little big, so we're going to pull that string back down or snug that down. All right. And so what happens is if I were to go ahead and finish my white, this loop at the top of this red stitch would be white, okay? And it wouldn't keep it neat. All right, so I'm going to stitch another double crochet in the red. I'm going to yarn over and just go through the first 2 loops. And then I'll grab my white yarn, back up, and finish that double crochet. And so we have 2 nice, neat red double crochets. Now we're going to be stitching over our red yarn. Let me get that tail out of the way. So we'll yarn over, we'll go in and stitch our double crochet. Then we'll stitch our second one, only going through the first 2 loops. Then we'll grab our red yarn back, make our loop, and pull through the last 2 loops. And see how that makes nice, neat 2 double crochets each time. All right, so we're going to need a total of 12 double crochets. And so we're going to do 2, 2, 2, 2 around. All right, so now we're going to stitch over the white tail of yarn, or the white working yarn actually. So we'll stitch our double crochet in red. We'll start our next double crochet. Only go through the first 2 loops. Bring our white yarn back in and finish up. So now we have 2, 4, 6, 8. We'll finish with our red. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And now we're going to do our last 2 in red. Now this is the last double crochet on this row, so we're going to go ahead and finish with our red color because we don't want a white loop coming up. All right, we're going to join to the top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch, and we'll go ahead and chain 3. All right, so this is how the first row should look. Let me pull that red back in because we've got too big of a loop there, and we'll have to weave those ends in. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We have 6 sets of 2 in 2 different colors. We have 3 sets of 2 in red and 3 sets of 2 in white. All right, now before we go on, we're going to turn this over and we're going to go ahead and weave in these ends so they don't come out. And this yarn is a little bit tricky with weaving our ends in. All right, so I'm going to go through the back of the stitches. Most of the time when we weave in, we try to go through the fibers. This yarn, it's just next to impossible to do that. And so we're going to go under the stitches, and then I like to go back and go through the stitches like this, pull, and then kind of go back the way I came. And then I'll cut that. All right, now we want to get rid of this hole in the center. So we'll go ahead and we'll pull, and then we'll thread that on our needle. And again, it's a little bit different than working with, if you're working with cotton or acrylic, it'll be a lot easier for you. But if you're using this scrubby yarn, I'm going to go around those stitches, gently pulling that in, because we don't want a hole in the center of our peppermint. All right, so this part's the same. We're stitching around that circle. We want to make sure we get a nice tight pull. There we go. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll kind of weave in and out of those stitches and do our best to hide it in the back. All right. And then when we're happy it's going to stay put, we can clip it off. So now we have 12 double crochets. We joined to the chain 3 and we chained 3. Now that you've done row 1 and understand how to change the colors every 2 stitches, row 2 will be very easy. We're going to be stitching 2 double crochets in each of those 12 double crochets around, and we'll be putting 2 stitches in each one, so we'll be changing colors again every 2 stitches. All right, so our chain 3 counts as our first. We'll place another double crochet in that same stitch, but we won't finish our double crochet. We'll bring our color 1, which is our white, back up and finish that double crochet. Then we'll stitch our next 2 double crochets in the next stitch, making sure we stitch over that red yarn that we're working with. So we'll go in. So I'm going around that red yarn and stitch a double crochet. We'll stitch our second double crochet. We'll go through the first 2. Then we'll grab that red yarn, or our color 2, and finish up. Then we'll do the same thing in the next stitch. We'll stitch our first double crochet. Then we'll stitch our second one, only going through the first 2 loops. We'll switch to our white and finish that double crochet. So now we'll go to our next stitch and we'll stitch 2 double crochets in it with our white. We'll finish 1 double crochet. Then we'll stitch our second one, again only going through the 2 loops, and then we're going to grab up our red yarn and pull it through. Then we'll go to our next stitch. Double crochet, second double crochet, only going through the first 2 loops, grab our white yarn and pull it through. And as you work, you'll notice that you kind of get into a rhythm. And see how nice and crisp that looks? And we'll continue this on around, stitching 2 double crochets in each of the stitches, changing colors every 2 stitches. We'll do this all the way around and meet back at our chain 3. I've completed my row, switching every 2 stitches, red and white. Here's my last double crochet, and remember, on the last double crochet we don't change back to the previous color. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that double crochet. I'm going to join to the chain 3 with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, I'm going to take my hook out. I'm going to bring up my red color right in the next stitch. So I'll go through those loops, bring up my red and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to do that edge that looks like a candy cane edge. We're going to push the red chain 4 to the back. We're going to put our hook in the first color. We're going to skip, of course, that one where we have our chain 4, and we're going to go to the next stitch a slip stitch and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to make the loop just a little bit big because I'm going to be pulling my hook out. I'm going to push that chain 4 to the back. I'm going to go in this one, and I'm going to slip stitch in the next stitch and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to pull my loop just a little bit big, and you can already see how that's going to work. We'll push this one to the back. We'll grab the first one, which is our white color. All right, so now I'm in my white, which is my first color. I'm pushing my chain to the back. I'm going to go in the next stitch and stitch a slip stitch and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, I'm going to make my loop just a little bit big, and you will see that your yarn might get a little twisted. And so I just untwist it every now and then because we're going to be twisting a little, so it might get twisted basically. All right, so now to do the next stitch, we're going to push the white chain 4 to the back. We're going to grab the red one, and we're going to stitch in the next double crochet a slip stitch and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll push that one to the back, grab the first one, and repeat. Pull down on that a little bit to get your loop back down. Go to the next stitch, stitch a slip stitch, and chain 4. Push that to the back. Grab the red one. Go to the next stitch and slip stitch and chain 4. And you see how that works? How it's making that curvy sort of peppermint look or candy cane look. So I've been working on a round. Chain 4. Push the front one to the back, grab the next color, slip stitch in the next stitch, and chain 4. Push the front one to the back, grab the previous one, slip stitch in the next stitch, and chain 4. All right, so I'm going to continue working my peppermint or candy cane edge, and then I'll show you how to join when we get back around where we started. So I've pretty much completed my edge trim. Here's my last chain 4 and slip stitch at the top, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go behind and join to that first slip stitch of my red, and I'm going to chain ten. All right, and I'm going to set that aside because we're going to use that for our loop. Now we have our white one, or our first one. We're going to push our loop to the back, and we're going to join at the first single crochet of our white loop. All right, so we'll go ahead and cut the white off. We'll tie that off, And then we'll pull that. Let me turn this over to the back. And we'll weave that in after a bit. Now, that doesn't want to stay back there. This particular type of yarn, let me pull it back here and just do a little so we can keep it tight. There we go. All right, so now we've finished. We've joined our white in, we've joined our red. We chain 10 because this is our loop. And then we're just going to come right back down here and slip stitch and join that. Cut that. And then we'll turn this over and pull that to the back. Now, like I said, this particular yarn is a little bit more difficult to work with. It's stretchy, it's spongy, it's scratchy, and it is a little bit more difficult to weave in your ends. So you're really going to have to take your time and make sure that they're secured. One thing I do, like I said, I go under and through the stitches, making sure I stay to the back. And weave those in securely. Because this is going to be used a lot in water. We're going to be scrubbing dishes and all kinds of things, and we want that to hold securely. The most difficult part of this particular scrubby is weaving in those ends. And once you've got that down, you've got it down. So that's how you make our scrubbies, or you can make your scrubby using 2 strands of cotton yarn.